light retail, service-based brand, $100,000, and you can, do really well out of that brand. Those are the types of things that I think you start to do multiple at the same time, diversify. One of them might be an absolute winner and one might be a dog. So, you can put more of your time into the winner. Even within the brand, you don't know if you're going to open up the dog right away or the big winner right away. And if you open up the dog, you think this is just a dog franchise. And if you open up the winner, you're going to think it's all because of me. I'm so good. And then you double down, you don't know what you're going to get.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gentempo.com community. And today we are with franchisee, you correct me, Erik Van Horn, everything franchise businesses. This is going to be a great conversation because I know a lot of people out there maybe looking to start a side hustle, maybe get out of the job that they're doing now. Maybe you felt the tension and the stress over what was going to happen with your paycheck over the last year and a half. So I love these conversations, learning about how to start businesses, and I love talking to great minds like yourself. So Erik, thanks for being here today.
100%. And you got it right. You couldn't get it wrong because I've kind of done everything in franchising, franchisee, franchisor, selling franchises, consulting, you name it, I've done it. So you got it right.
So how do you get into something like this? It's not that it's so odd, but it's like you wonder what is franchising? How'd you get into it? What's your story?
So my story is ready to go to law school, signed up for law school. I was a straight C student, so that was not going to end well. I started a lawn company, and I'll make this a real short story. I started a lawn company as I was beginning to sell real estate, and I wanted to be a real estate investor. So I was doing someone's lawn, planting flowers, mowing, doing that type of thing. A lady comes out and she says, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" I said, "Be a real estate investor." And she said, "We did that 20 years ago. And we talked about it. And she says, "Now we just want to sell a house that we bought 20 years ago." And long story short, I ended up buying that house with no money of my own, partnered with my parents, and she signed over that house to us with no money exchange. She just wanted to sign over the house and we would pay closing costs. I ended up selling that to my parents. And that I rolled that money into my first franchise. I didn't buy anything cool. I just bought a business, and that's how I bought my first franchise. And then things just started to grow from there. And that was 20 years ago.
So what was that franchise?
That was Liberty Tax Service. So I had some friends, they were based in Virginia Beach, and I, barely passed accounting in college. I hated accounting. I liked finance, but I didn't like accounting. So I thought, I'm never going to own a tax business. What I came to find out is in the tax business, you were really in a marketing business. It was a marketing business where you hired employees to actually do the taxes. So I thought, I can do that. And so I ended up, as I started to talk to franchisees who were in that business, a lot of them were marketing people. They weren't tax people. And the marketing people actually did better as an owner than the tax people did. So I thought, well, I can at least give this a shot. And so I bought a franchise, and then I ended up buying multiple of those franchises in Kansas City, Missouri, while I was living in Virginia Beach. It was a seasonal business. So I started a couple of those my first year in the tax business, did well, and then bought what's called an area development, where you buy an entire region. And then as people buy those franchises and own and operate them, you get half of the royalties. So I did that in the Austin, Texas region, where I bought that region, which we ended up putting in 42 franchise locations. So I was getting half of the royalties off of that. So my initial start in franchising was buying this little tax business that turned into a larger business for me. And then I started to sell franchises during the off season. And that's how I got my teeth cut in finding franchisees and learning how to take people through a process to buy franchises.
So why, what's the benefits of having, starting, I think I kind of know this right, but starting because I ran a business for 25 years and no guidance, no direction, just like I was a chiropractor, they taught you how to do that part, but not how to run a business. Right. So why franchise? What's the benefits of purchasing a franchise as opposed to starting a business on your own?
Well, a lot of it's you're paying for a proven system or a proven model. And in some cases, you're paying for a brand. Paying for a brand, meaning like McDonald's or Subway. They have a large brand recognition. But a lot of people that buy franchises aren't buying a well-recognized brand in the beginning. So what they're paying for typically is systems and processes of doing business. And that's very generic and very fluffy. So that might mean a lot to somebody and it might not mean very much to somebody. But when I think about buying a franchise, I'm buying a shortcut. They've learned things the hard way, so I don't have to learn them the hard way, do things the hard way, and pay the dummy tax. So when I'm ever looking at buying a franchise, or I'm helping franchisors like build a really good franchisor, I'm thinking about how can they get a franchisee and the franchisee get an ROI on the money that they're paying. So a franchisee will pay $40,000 for a territory, and let's say they're paying 8% in royalties. Well, how can they get an ROI on that 40,000? And then how can they actually get an ROI on that 8% that they're paying every month? And so hopefully the franchisor thinks that way too. So they think if the franchisee is paying me 8% in royalties, the franchisor has staff and they're doing different things to help support the franchisee, but they should be thinking, how can they make more than 8% on what they're paying? And so sometimes that's a unique model. Sometimes it's a unique product that they have that nobody else has access to, like the secret sauce, like the Coke formula for Coke. It might mean they just have really good programming in the fitness space. There are some brands out there that they do a lot of the programming and a lot of the different things for you, so you don't have to do them. They do it at scale where you would have to do it individually, or you would have to hire somebody to do some different things for you. So I like, as a franchisor, you should be thinking, how can I do things at scale for my franchisees that they don't have to do individually? So that's some of the value that you get as a franchisee. And in terms of cost savings, I was a part of a brand in the salon suite space where they told me one thing. They're like, Erik, make sure that the pipe is this big going into your location. And at the very end of a process dealing with the landlord, I made sure that the pipe was that big. And they're like, oh, we thought it was, but it really wasn't. Then they had to get that pipe to be a certain size, which, it ended up saving us about 6 figures by catching that one mistake. So somebody made the mistake before, saved us $100,000. So I got an ROI right away on that brand.
Right. So it's interesting as I think about this, and if I think back to my career, right? So 24 years in practice. At the beginning, there's no way I would have, I had this creativity. I was this doctor. I was going to run my practice. Fast forward 24 years later, I'm 50 years old. I absolutely would buy a system. I absolutely would buy a system, not figure it out myself. And then beyond that, I'm still thinking like a technician, right?
Yep.
You're buying businesses that, I don't know how passionate you are about taxes or the beauty industry, right? So different mindset, right? Are you buying something that you're going to be in, that you have to have a passion for? Or is it something, should I look at it more as an investment opportunity than an actual business that I have, that's aligned so much with my, my purpose or drive or my vocation?
I think if you're going to be an owner operator in a business, you need to either be around a thing that you enjoy, something that you're passionate about. Maybe it's kids, maybe it's baking, maybe it's whatever that you're passionate about. Even more than that, I think you need to be passionate around the type of people that you're around. So you could be most passionate about, cookies because you love to bake or you love cookies, but then you realize the kind of people that you're around that are helping bake those cookies or serving those cookies or whatever. And if that frustrates you, that's not the kind of person that you want to manage or be around, then that's not going to be fun. Or you buy a business or start a business, a franchise that is in a thing. The thing isn't something that you're passionate about, but maybe the type of person that you are managing is the type of person that you align with, that you like to manage. So I think both of those things, you have to think about both of those things and what's more important. Ideally, you get both. And this is for the owner operator. So passion for the people that you're around or the people that you manage, that you align, or the product. So those two things, get both of them, that's good. Now, on the flip side, I don't think you need to have a passion for the majority of type of employee that you're going to have, or the business model, or the service, or the space. You need to have a passion to be able to manage one person, a district operational manager that oversees the entire operation of the thing that you are bought, the franchise that it is. And that was it for us with the salon suite industry. We had one person that he managed 6 people who managed 12 locations for us. So he had 4 people that would manage the 12 different salons, and he had an accounting person, full-time bookkeeper, and a full-time handyman. That's what he managed. Us as owners didn't manage any of those employees. We managed the one district operational manager who we had very high level meetings with. He would report the financials to us, dissect them, let us know what he thought, give us projections for the next quarter, let us know what's going on in the business. And then he dealt with all of that. So franchising can be more of an investment. You have the money, you have a good management background, and you can manage a key person. And that is a franchise like the salon suite industry is great for somebody like that. But that has few employees as well. So you either go into a business that has few employees, or you could go into the food industry, which has a lot of employees, but it's very systematic, very replicable. People in the food franchises can own hundreds of them. So, but you just need to find out what you're really passionate about. And my last bits of wisdom around that is, you don't want to get into a business that you're so passionate about, and then you're in it and now you hate everything about the thing that you used to be passionate about.
Right. I see that. So when you started to explain those different layers and being able to expand into multiple locations, 1 manager, 6 managers, 12 locations, is that something that typically comes along with the model and structure of a franchise? Or that's something that you've created and you help other people to be able to leverage their businesses?
All right. We want to get into the dirty truth about franchising. Most franchisors work with the average franchisee, and people that are watching this are probably above average people. And if you get into a business, you want to at least think you're going to be above average. There's always going to be a group within the franchise system, no matter how good it is, that are the above average franchisees, and they're always doing things bigger and better. They do the basics well, they learn the basics, and then they're always improving. Franchisors love them, sometimes hate them because they're always pushing the boundaries, but they're bringing in the majority of the income, and they're the least amount of work for the franchisor. So I say that to say there's a lot of discussion like this in franchise systems that don't come from the franchisor. They don't give this type of guidance. And I have a franchise mastermind. It's the franchise tribe, and that's what we call it. And there's 2 different levels to get in, and people come in to that. And as I had a conversation today with one of the members, and he's like, Erik, I'm ready to buy my 2nd and 3rd brands. I want to give equity to my manager. I'm thinking about doing phantom equity, like we talk about, or maybe fund the business entirely. And once the loan's paid off, then I keep X amount of the business, or maybe it's just a unique profit sharing. So those are the types of discussions that are important to have for the business owner, the business investor, that most franchise systems, they don't have a clue about. They don't really get into that because they're so into the tactical and the day-to-day of the business. And I think that's okay, because in the Franchise Tribe Mastermind, we have these types of discussions. We want the franchisor to be focused on the things that they can be focused on within the franchise model to be able to help the business make money and generate revenue and do all the things that they should do as a good franchisor. It's outside of franchising is when you really get to have interesting conversations about how to scale multiple brands, how to have large operations. And at some point, the franchisor will catch up to that. But usually early stage brands, they don't have those types of discussions because they're just not thinking that way.
Is that kind of the goal? And I've heard from some of your testimonial videos I've seen, is it multiple locations for one franchise? Is it getting into multiple brands? Is there a benefit to one way or the other?
I was just talking to one of the guys in my mastermind this morning about that too, but literally just these are the discussions that we were having. And because he has one brand right now and a handyman service, he's looking at salon suites and looking at some other retail stuff and looking at some other service-based stuff. I said, if you're going big, like Salon Suites, where it costs $1 million to build something out, or another high equipment based brand that he was looking at, you probably want to put a lot of time and attention into that, because it's a high capital outlay, and you don't want to screw it up. I said, but these other two brands that you're looking at, one is $100,000 investment that can make a good amount of money, a real good amount of money, highly scalable, large profit margins. And then he was looking at another one that is a light retail model that's about a $250,000 investment. And he's looking at maybe making about 150 net profit out of that. So light retail, service-based brand, $100,000, and you can, do really well out of that brand. Those are the types of things that I think you start to do multiple at the same time, diversify. But when you're stretching yourself out financially, you've got to make that work, because it can sink you. But for myself, I've enjoyed diversification. I've liked that. The other thing, when you start to diversify, after you've figured out how to run businesses and what you're good at, then you can find the businesses that really align with that. And then one of them might be an absolute winner and one might be a dog. So, you can put more of your time into the winner. And that even happens when you, like in the solo salon business, in the salon suite business, we had 12 locations. Eventually we had 12 locations. The first one that we opened up, and we opened up 3 right away. So and agreed to open up 3 right away. The first one was average. It was, we wanted to get to 50% occupancy when we opened up, because you're at cash flow break even. That's what we did. Our second one was a dog. The franchisor thought it was going to be great. The franchise founders thought it was going to be great. It was like the best location in Huntington Beach, California. And I don't know if there's a Huntington Beach anywhere else, but Huntington Beach, California, this is going to be the best location out of all of Orange County. And it was an absolute dog. We lost money for a long time on that business. The third one that we opened up was like the winner. Like, we could not help but make a lot of money every single week in that business, which was great. But the point of all that is, even within the brand, you don't know if you're going to open up the dog right away or the big winner right away. Right. And if you open up the dog, you think this is just a dog franchise. And if you open up the winner, you're going to think it's all because of me. I'm so good. And then you double down, you don't know what you're going to get. So even within franchise systems, you're going to have, great locations, average locations, and underperforming locations.
I guess I think you kind of answered the question I was going to ask. It's probably not a great question, but average cost, but you're looking at across a gamut of different businesses and what would go into a business. So I guess we could say, let's talk minimally. What are we talking about to get something started, and some of the bigger projects that you've seen?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question to ask and appropriate, because it's hard to get accurate answers on some of this, because franchisors, you might be talking to them and they're going to tell you can do it on the cheap, and it's really not that cheap. So I think if you have $50,000 liquid capital, cash in the bank, or access to that home equity line or something that you could put into a brand, you have a lot of options available to you. You can buy a brand up to $150,000, give or take, putting $50,000 of your cash into it. There are brands that you can get for less than 150. Like, there's one that I'm thinking of right now that I'm about ready to have equity in. That's $100,000 to get started with franchise fee and equipment. That's on the real low end. But even with that one, I'd like people to have $50,000 of liquid capital, because they've done something right to be able to have $50,000 of liquid capital, and they're not risking their last bits of savings to get into a brand. And I like that. So in other words, if you have $50,000 liquid capital, you can get into a brand for 100 or 150,000. That's kind of on the low end. Now, there are lower end brands out there, but that's kind of my minimum. And like we were saying, some higher end brands, salon suites. Well, let's say some of the high end fitness studios. You're looking at about $400,000 to $600,000 to get a fitness studio up and going, because there's a lot of build out that happens in equipment and all of that kind of thing. And then you have a lot of marketing expense to have a really good grand opening first month in business. So $400,000 to $600,000 to get a really good fitness brand opened up. And then, like we said, the salon suites, you're looking between 800 and 1.2 million. Again, rough numbers to get one of those open up. And I'm talking, about consulting with another brand that's in the car wash industry, and that's even more. So we'll just say a million plus on those.
Yeah, I've looked into it actually. 5 million is not a big number for a car wash.
No, not at all.
Cash flowing business for sure.
And there's different advantages in the salon suite industry and car wash. There's accelerated depreciation. So you have high income, you're a doctor, or you have a high W-2 wage. You're just used to paying a lot of taxes, but now you buy a business like that's higher, a higher cost, but you can take a lot of deductions on taxes with that. And that was really nice on the tax bill when we were building out so many of these salon suites, because of the accelerated depreciation, where we got to write off so much of our actual expense really quickly.
Cool. This will be my last question, but people are out there and they're going to start looking into this. So what are some of the things to look for, and what are some of the things to look out for?
So what you look for in a business is, one, if you're looking at buying a franchise, what you want to do is get into a business where franchisees can validate what you're hearing. So I'm not going to get into the whole sales process. I help franchisors develop sales processes and systems for the franchise. So, and I help franchisees find good brands to buy. So I'm on both sides of it. But at the end of the day, you're going through a sales process, and the most important part of the sales process, whether you're looking to buy a franchise or if you're a franchisor trying to sell a franchise, is have a really good validation process. Because franchisors cannot tell you you're going to make X amount of money. If it's not in the disclosure document, they can't tell you that stuff. So they can only talk about what they disclose. Maybe it's gross revenue, maybe it's a net profit margin, whatever it is, they can talk about. Your job is to go talk to franchisees about your pro forma, what you've put together. And you also it's called validation. So you validate with all of these franchisees the things that you are hearing in your head, what you think that you're hearing. If you think you're going to make $100,000 your first year or your second year, you talk to the franchisees about that. I think I'm going to make X amount of money. And if they just are like, you're an idiot for thinking that, then your expectations are wrong. Or if they validate that, they're like, yeah, we did that our first year. We did that our second year. That's validation. So you want to talk to franchisees. If you're also validating the culture of the franchisor, do they really care about their franchisees? They're really saying they care about their franchisees, or they say they have this secret sauce and, a great call center or great technology or great lead generation, but do they really? So you validate that with franchisees. You say, hey, franchisee, do they have incredible technology? Do they have this lead source that just provides an endless funnel of leads to you? And if there's a disconnect between what the franchisor is telling you and what the franchisees are telling you, that's a red flag. Mm-hmm. That is probably the most important piece of advice that I could give. It's towards the middle of the sales process, but that's probably the crux of the sales process. If there's a disconnect, either you're hearing the franchisor wrong, or they're telling you something that is not accurate.
Right. Do your due diligence. It is a sales process. They do want your money for their business. And so it just makes sense not to get caught up in the sale and ask and do your research and ask people about it. So that being said, you are a resource. And so tell us a little bit about how you help people out there, the different stages of the process, and how they can stay in touch with you. I know you have a website and a service to help people. So let's hear about that.
So I've got a couple different ways that I help people along the franchising journey, from franchise buyer to franchisor. Early stage, someone's buying a franchise, I can point them in the right direction, either to some brands that I own. I can give them some information on that, or I can put them in touch with a consultant who will help them look at all kinds of different brands. I know all the consultants out there, and I know some of the best, and I'll just make an introduction. The other thing I do with franchisees, so once you become a franchisee, I have a mastermind where people can join and they just pay every month. And there's a low end mastermind and a high ticket mastermind, depending on what you want to do and what you want to get out of the mastermind. So that's the franchise tribe. And I really enjoy that. That's a passion thing for me. I bring in incredible speakers that people most likely don't have access to at any given time. So that's a lot of fun for me. Masterminds have changed my life, have elevated me. And so I'm doing that in the franchise community. And lastly, I help brands that are a franchise that are not having great success at finding and bringing on franchisees into their system. I consult with them and let them know what they're doing wrong, give them confidence in the sales process so they can take people from the beginning of the sales process to the end of the sales process, so they are selecting the right franchisees that are going to help grow their brand.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you for being part of our community, being part of our docuseries, as well as showing up and spending some time with the community today. I know there are people out there interested in starting a business, and it's never been a better time than now, especially with the models that are out there, and with having you out there as a resource, being able to help people and guide people along the way. There's really takes a lot of the questions out of it for people. So thank you so much for showing up today and being part of this.
100%. This has been fun. I love you guys.
Cool, man. Well, I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great day.
You too.